Hey guys, it's Penelope in London, and we're looking at Venus conjunct the South Node, which is happening on Friday. And it's quite interesting because it already has happened. Venus conjunct the South Node in Virgo, as you can see from this chart that I've got here. If you see my pointer, we've got the Venus at 29 degrees, and it will go conjunct at 0 degrees of Virgo. And the last time that happened was in Virgo, but at 18 degrees, 4th of October 2025. So, what is it about when planets hit the South Node? If we look the 0 degree as well, we'll talk about that because the 0 degree is a critical degree and it's also potent and it carries a quality. And I think it's worth understanding because Venus is to do with our needs. And there's a lot of other stuff going on at the moment, like we've got Mercury retrograde at the moment, and also that node will be moving into, I'll show you that as well. The North Node will be moving into Aquarius, which is exciting from my perspective. I prefer this new energy, and we're moving away from the Pisces energy. So, what the South Node actually means, the South Node is in evolutionary astrology, they talk about it represents the accumulated past, and it's the deeply ingrained patterns in ourselves and in our lives. It's our habits and relational dynamics and what we have been practicing for a very long time. So I've got a Scorpio South Node, and that's played out very much of my life. But I've noticed as I've got to my second Saturn return, I'm really seem to be stepping into my Taurus North Node more in a conscious way. Like I've become very conscious about what that means for me. So whenever we understand whatever we understand about past lives, we've all got different views on this. I'm 50-50 on past lives, but I can understand the past of this lifetime going back to being a little baby and then coming into the world and growing up and what I've experienced. We do have, which I have no qualms with, the ancestral inheritance that we all receive. And this is part of the collective unconscious as well. And it's the deepest conditioning of this lifetime. So we're all heavily conditioned by the things that we experience, the things that we're taught to believe, the foods we eat, the religions, the education. They're all belief systems based on how we've been reared and how we've been brought up in the world and on our parenting, whether it's been good enough or whether it's been very painful for us. So we've all got different experiences. And the South Node is where things are familiar. So the South Node and Venus is our needs. It's where we default with the South Node. It's where the grooves are worn so deep that we move along them without even noticing. You know, we sort of like every day we get up and we brush our teeth with the same way and we do things the same way. It's like that deep groove, and that's what the South Node is. So it's not the South Node is not a negative thing. It's not simply negative. It holds genuine gifts. And that's worth understanding as well. There's a lot of gifts in our South Node, and there's competence and things that we have mastered across a long arc of experience. So there's things, even through our traumas, that we have mastered. But it also holds the patterns that we have outlived or that have outlived their usefulness. So the ways of being that were once served us for survival and now limit us, and they are a limitation and they're serving as a limitation. And the South Node is always asking, if it was going to ask, what are you ready to release? So if we take into account, what are we ready to release? And we look at Venus, and that's our values and our needs, then we can begin to understand what this configuration is meaning and then what it means in Virgo. And it's what have we been holding on to out of habit rather than genuine need. So we can maybe be experiencing something at this time that we realize that we are holding on to something out of habit rather than genuine need, and what is being composted so that something new can grow. So we need new soil for new life and new things to grow. So you see here, I'm going to show you, this is the 8th of July 2026. You can see on my chart here. British summertime, it's 22:42 p.m., but this chart is 22:35. And the moon at the moment is conjunct Chiron, the wound. So the moon is at 0 degrees Taurus and Chiron is also at 0 degrees Taurus. So if I go to this exact conjunction, you can see here that within 24 hours, Venus will be in 0 degrees 11 of Virgo. And then if I go hours ahead and use 0 degrees in the south node, and we keep going, and we can see that Venus will jump over. There you go. So that will be British summertime, 8:35 a.m., 10th of July. So in the U.S.A, it will be the early hours of the 10th of July. So when Venus meets the South Node, its territory that is being examined is Venetian. It's to do with Venus. It's love, relationships, it's our worth, values, beauty, and how we have historically sought connection and belonging. So sometimes we seek connection and belonging that is out of habit rather than out of choice, like a conscious choice. And there can be things that can be harmful for us in relation to relationship, and also us not valuing ourselves or our worth or not noticing our beauty. So Venus conjunct the South Node brings to the surface at this time the relational patterns that have been running beneath our conscious awareness. So it's just where they're just underneath there and you know something's not quite right and you maybe are questioning it. And the ways also in which we have learned to give and receive love. And we've all learnt that stuff based on where we've come from in our early years, the ways we give and the ways we receive. So sometimes if we weren't given love in a respectful way, then we may not understand that we deserve that, as an example. And also it's the conditions we have placed on our own worth. So if we were not valued, then we can have conditions around our, feelings about our own worth that are not realistic. We can think lowly of ourselves maybe. And then the connections also we have maintained out of loyalty, which many of us do, or being familiar long after the genuine nourishment has run out. So if something is not nourishing us, it's really important to realize that our time on earth is of the essence. Like time passes by, and if you look ahead, it's easier somehow when we get to, second Saturn return. For some people, it happens before that, but to value ourselves and to understand that we do not have to keep involving ourselves in things where there is no nourishment, because nourishment is really important to us. And also, it's something that if we haven't been nourished, then we have to learn to nourish ourselves. And then we can have moments where we think something's not right for us, but we cannot override that anymore. We're not in a time, particularly coming up with the Sleeping Phoenix 2027, with the human design. This is not a time to mess around anymore. This is a time to have clarity, to be clear-minded, and to know that we can look after ourselves and to value ourselves. And also that Jupiter moved into Leo as well, which is another matter, but also to recognize what our value. So this South Node Venus it's not necessarily a painful transit, though it can bring some uncomfortable clarity. And what it most is likely to do, it will make things visible that were previously felt but not seen. So you may see something in a relationship and you think, no, this is not right, this is not for me. And also a relationship that has been draining, and we've all got these around us as well, suddenly becomes something we can name. And once we can name something, we can do something about it. So we may have a pattern of overgiving or seeking worth through the approval of others. We're all it's not guilty, but I've definitely done that. You seek the approval, or we bounce off each other and people can make us feel good. And then sometimes what happens is, which I had a recent situation where there can be that building up of who you are, and then a devaluation, which is sort of a form of narcissism. I don't want to go too much into that. But the idea that, the devaluation, when somebody devalues us, it really, it's up to us to not accept being devalued. And that's to do with our worth. So these things can come to light, not to, it's not about punishing us, but it's because the South Node is ready to release them. So if you're feeling this at this time, or this last week, or the week ahead, you may have something's outrun its course. So the timing of the transit is the soul saying, you have learned what this pattern has had to teach you, and you do not need to keep living inside it. And then because it's the critical degree of 0 degrees of Virgo, I will add there, this happened in Virgo because the Venus moves quite quickly. So we have the sun, the moon, and then we have the moon is the quickest, yeah? And then because it's 28 days around the chart, then we have Mercury, which is the next planet. Then we have Venus, which is in a line. And the last time this happened, Venus conjunct the South Node, was the 4th of October, October 4th, 2025. And that was 279 days ago. I worked it out. So what was going on in your life around October 2025? You may not remember, but there may be a light bulb moment. You think, oh, that's what I was dealing with. And it might be a follow-on from that, and just like a finalization of what was going on in October 2025. So the 0 degree of Virgo, it's got a quality to it, and the 0 degree of any sign is a critical degree. It's the purest moment, most unfiltered expression of that sign's energy. So I'm 0 degrees of Sun Gemini in the 7th house, 0 degrees. So you can check out whether you've got any 0 degree planets in your chart as well. And the 29th degree is another planet that people talk about, the 29th degree. So but the 0 degree is the purest, most unfiltered expression of the sign's energy. It's right at the threshold before any modulation or refinement has taken place. It's the most essential concentrated form of it. So Virgo at 0 degrees brings in a quality of discernment, absolute discernment. And Virgo is the sign of analysis, of the careful examination of what is real versus what has been assumed, of the separation of what serves from what does not. And it is the sign that looks at the actual facts of a situation. So very, very interesting. That's what I've been doing that with one particular situation. I've been looking at the facts of the situation to the point that I actually wrote them all down and made some notes on them, which maybe is going a bit far, but that's my Gemini in me as well. I like to collate information. And I also have a Virgo midheaven. So the facts of the situation and the story that has been wrapped around them. And at 0 degrees, the Virgo capacity for clear-eyed, precise seeing is operating full strength, untempered, and it's undiluted and it's direct. So this is very useful to us. So take note of it. You're able to see something now. It doesn't matter, it's not good or bad. It's just that we're moving through life and we pick up things as we go along the way. And then we have to unload things as we go along the way as well. And Venus conjunct the South Node is therefore, in Virgo, 0 degrees, is therefore a transit that brings the Venetian patterns, our relational worth, related value, based into the full light of this Virgo discernment. So be discerning. It's important to be discerning because it can really help us to move forward. It can help us to solve ongoing issues we've had, and it can also help us to move into more of a way of living that we want to. So it's asking, when we look at this connection, this dynamic pattern, it's with complete clarity with the actual facts rather than the feeling of what was hoped for. So when we look at the facts, it can really take all of the feeling out of it, and then what do we see? And if you see something you still want to carry forward, then carry it forward. But if you don't, then it's okay to say, I'm not carrying this forward. I'm not carrying this with me. And the North Node you can see is in Pisces. But as I said, I'm going to move this chart forward to check the date when it's going into Aquarius. It's the south node never operates alone because it's to do with the north node. They're not separate. It's the north node is the direction of growth and the new territory the soul is being drawn toward. And the north node right now, at that 0 degrees Pisces, it's in the sign of compassion anyway, and of the dissolution of separating boundaries or genuine spiritual surrender, the North Node. It's the kind of love that does not require the other person to be a particular way in order for it to be felt. It's a love that's non-transactional if we're looking at that North Node, Pisces. And Venus conjunct the South Node is releasing the over-analytical approach to relationships, the ledger of who has given what and whether it balances, the perfectionism applied to love, and the worth that is contingent on being useful or correct. All of this is being composited in the direction of the North Node in Pisces. So if we're going to move forward, then we have to do it, to me, that analytical stuff on the South Node is quite important from my perspective, because then we can release it. So we can have more compassion. So we can move on from things in a compassionate way and in a open-hearted way. And it doesn't have to be naive. It's Pisces at its evolved state is it's best when it's not without discernment, but also it is without the constant measuring, the conditional giving the exhausting audit of whether love has been fairly distributed. So it's a bit of a mix what's going on here. So the invitation of Venus conjunct the South Node, this is the 10th of July, is to look honestly at what you value and why. So when you value something, and why do you value it? And to notice which of your relationships and relational patterns are genuinely nourishing and which have been running on, and which ones have been running on just being familiar. And we know which ones they are. And if we're going to allow the Virgo clarity of this transit to show the actual facts of the connections, it's not a judgment, it's information. And then to ask what it would mean to begin to move gradually in the direction of the North Node. And that can be loving to ourselves and unjudgmental of ourselves, because we need to move forward in the direction of love for ourselves that does not keep score. Sometimes we can make decisions and then we keep score on ourselves and think, should I have been that way? Should I have moved on? Whatever comes into clarity around the 10th of July or before, which I believe's happened for me. So whatever comes to light, whatever you find yourself seeing with unusual precision about a relationship, a dynamic, a pattern that has been running beneath your awareness, trust that clarity right at this time. The South Node is releasing. It is not going to punish anyone. It's not punishing the people that are being released. It's not punishing ourselves from releasing either. And what is being freed is always making room for something that belongs to where we're actually going. And we can't take everybody with us, and not everybody can take us with them. This is just the nature of life. For me, that's happening in my 9th house. So you want to look at what that's happening for you. And you could also look at your aspects. So I do read charts and I help people understand charts. So if you want to book a session with me, you can definitely look to my description and see my booking page. And so it's the 0 degree Virgo threshold, and it's the ledger, data, daily realities, and the South Node is the cosmic drain, if you can look at it that way. It does have its gifts, but it can be a drain. And it's demanding that we look at things with like mathematics, like how you would look, like 2 and 2 is 4. And looking at it and saying, right, okay, let's sort out this balance sheet and make sure it all adds up. And the energy of this can be very freeing for us. So I was trying to look back to October, and I sort of get an idea of what was going on for me around then. So the conjunction is, it's helping us to notice old loops, and it's forcing the system to realize without whole access, we do, from, manipulation, if we're staying in things because we're being manipulated or somebody's being dishonest, or whether we're being dishonest, it's not always about somebody else. And I think that that is that for today. And I will come back with a moon video that's upcoming. I think it's the 14th of July 14th. We've got some activity going on. And before I go, one more thing. I'm just going to take this North Node to see when it lands in Aquarius. I did write it down, but it's days away. So you see here, 11. There you go. So the moment is, I'm going to go by hours. We go here. We're nearly there. There you go. So that is July the 27th, July the 26th if you're in the USA, so you know in advance. And there's other stuff going on in between as well, but I'll talk about things as they come to mind and what catches my eye and what I'm interested in. And if there's anything you'd like me to discuss around planets, then you can leave a message in the comments. And if you want to give my video a like, that helps me to grow my channel. And I'll catch you later. Thanks for listening.